I think it's always hard for people to talk about mistakes, but I think it's important when we do, especially when you can learn from them. I want to talk about what happened here. And that is exactly what you think it is. Call it an accidental discharge, a negligent discharge. It goes by different names, but the point is that rifle went off when I did not intend it to. Now, that is from a video I posted a couple days ago, and rightfully so, there were people in the comments who pointed it out and said, hey, what happened at this time mark? And, I think there were a few people here who said, hey, if that hasn't happened to you or that's happened to me or, like this and that. And I think it was important for me to make a video to make sure that people understand that it's not right to say that it's something that happens because I think it's almost impossible to be in the shooting sports and not either be around an accidental discharge or have one happen to you. And if you're in either situation and say that it can't happen to you, that's also a very dangerous thing because it is the nature of what we do. We are dealing with things that are dangerous. We have to make sure that we're following range rules and the basic commandments of shooting. So we're making sure we're not pointing it at things we don't intend or aren't prepared to kill. Buildings, people, whatever it is, animals, safe direction, all of these things, right? Don't put your finger on the trigger until you're prepared to shoot. And even if you're doing all those things, even if you are well versed in them, things can happen. And this is a perfect example. So I wanted to talk about this, and other people have talked about things that, people that are in the shooting sports that do YouTube and whatnot have done videos similar to this. And I think it's important when it does happen that we talk about it because it brings awareness and makes everybody kind of refocus on what's important when they go out to shoot. Because, I put roughly 6,000 rounds a year down range, and that's a lot. And like a lot of people, it's easy to sometimes get complacent. I go out, I set up my gear, I do it the same way every time. I pull the trigger. If you watch the videos, I largely load, close the bolt, move my gun. I do all the things very, very similarly. And yet, this one time, my pinky got away from me and hit the trigger. What I do want to talk about, and I'll show you in the video here in a second, is that this is not a bad trigger situation. This is not an unsafe gun situation, as some people in my comments have pointed out. This was purely an accidental pinky hit. Yes, my trigger is a competition trigger. It is set to roughly 4 or 5 ounces. There are certainly lighter triggers. I've shot triggers that are under an ounce. It does not make them any less safe. Every trigger that I've ever shot, you could not, if you tried, bounce triggering it. Like, you can't hit the gun and have it go off. It's not going to slam fire. The triggers we use are extremely safe when used correctly. This was purely a situation where my pinky caught it, and I don't care if it was a 4-ounce trigger or a 12-ounce or a 2-pound trigger, it would have set it off, okay? Now, we could probably argue that if it was a 7 or 6 or 7 pound trigger, maybe a different situation, but it's not a function of it not being a safe situation. So let me walk through this video real quick. I want to talk about what happened and then talk about how I do normally shoot so that, one, you can see and understand what happened, and two, if it's something that you do that could be changed to make it a safer situation, much like I'm going to, then we can all learn from this. So let's take a look at the video here. Here we have it teed up, and I am going to go ahead and show you. This was the first sighter I took. I pull out the safety flag, close the bolt, and you can see that my normal operation is to close the bolt, move the gun back and forth, make sure it's free and clear, and then get on my gun and take a shot. And you'll see that I repeat that procedure the second time here. So I'm going to put a round in. I'm going to take a look at my scoreboard. I close it. I move the gun back and forth. And in fact, if you watch the entirety of this video, you will see that even including the one that was hit, that I follow the same procedures every time. Now, what can I take away from this? Well, what I'm going to do now is and see right there it happened, and you can see my pinky caught it down at the bottom. It was not my trigger finger, and you can see that I was rattled by it. Like, I don't just load another round. I was talking to myself, I know what happened, but I had to process what happened in my head, and I still followed through and did my same normal procedure each time because I just, was sort of it's ingrained in me. So here I go. I load up another round. You'll see me close the bolt. I'm going to move the gun back and forth, and you can see that I do it there. And then I'm going to get on the gun. Now, what have I learned from this? Well, I am now going to be changing, and I will take some practice. I got to sit here and dry fire at home because it's a big change for me. I am now going to load a round like that, and then I will get behind the gun before I go to close the bolt. And I will also be closing the bolt a little differently without my hand quite as open. Now, typically I try to open or close the bolt with my hand a little bit more closed in terms of not fanning my hand out. But clearly, things can happen, and I don't want it to. Now, it's been years and years since this has happened to me, and it definitely took me by surprise. But I also don't want to have it happen again. So this is where we learn from our mistakes, and it's going to be a time-induced change for me because I'm so used to doing it this way. Close the bolt, move the gun, get behind it, and I'm very, very repetitious in that manner. So it's going to be a slight change in order how I do it, and that's going to take practice. And I can't say that enough because if you are going to make a change like this, I mean, this is a fundamental change to how I shoot. And you can see I'm very consistent, like I said. I have to change that consistency, and that takes rewiring my brain. But it's important to me to make that change, and that's why I wanted to show people, because if you are doing something like this, or handling pistols, shotguns, whatever it is, and you can go back and look at your situation and say, well, maybe if I change the order, I could help reduce the chances of a negligent discharge. Maybe I should reevaluate that. I think that's a really good thing to do. And again, like my next 20 shots or 22 shots, no issues. I've shot thousands and thousands of rounds without an issue, but it only takes one issue. And there you have the reality of it. Thousands and thousands of rounds do not prevent you from making a mistake. And again, I've seen plenty of people who are on a stage bigger than I am make mistakes. And 99.9% of the time, there are no issues because at the end of the day, we are professionals. I line up my gun the same way every time. Everything is uncased and cased at the bench. My gun is never pointed in an unsafe direction. I'm not flagging anybody. Like everything about it helps to ensure that if something like this happens. Now, if you're dealing with pistols or shotguns or 3-gun or you know any number of other matches, there are going to be different challenges that you might face. But the important thing is to understand how you approach the line, how you approach the targets, how you clear a gun, all of the things that are involved, whether you're shooting a competition or just for fun in the desert, whatever it is, making sure that you're doing it in a way that you have overlapping levels of safety. We talk about Swiss cheese a lot. If you take slices of Swiss cheese, and let's say you take a chunk of Swiss cheese and you slice it up, well, if you look through all those slices, you might have a hole that goes all the way through those slices. But if we rearrange those slices of cheese, now something might get through one hole, but another layer of cheese is going to stop that. That's kind of how we tend to think about range safety at my club and how I've heard it talked about at other places, which is the more layers of safety we can induce, pointing a gun in a safe direction, not putting our finger on the trigger, making sure that we have other safeties, whether it's the protective barriers that you see in my video. Some people have concrete culvert tubes, tires, whatever it is. Every layer of protection at a range helps prevent somebody or something from getting injured, hurt, or killed. And that's something we never want. In the firearms industry, we are always facing oppression, opposition from any number of people, whether it's neighbors, whether it's people who are anti-gun, whatever it is. And to deny that this stuff happens is completely ludicrous. It happens. It shouldn't. But it's the things we do to help prevent it and the changes we make going forward that make us better firearm owners and a better part of this community. So I hope that everybody is able to learn from this. You know, it's hard. It's not easy making a video like this. It's not easy seeing myself make a mistake like that. And so all I can say is please learn from this and do something in your routine that adds a layer of safety. Whether you're running a match, whether you're at a match, whether you're in the desert, whether you're shooting with friends, whatever it is, do something to better yourself in the firearms community so that things are even safer the next time you go out. And with that, I still encourage everybody to get out and shoot. I appreciate everybody watching. I hope you have a good day. We'll talk soon.